Now I'd like to introduce a person that's very special to Project Hired, and certainly to me personally, because I had the pleasure of working with Wayne for just over 6 months when he was a member of the call center team at the Palo Alto VA. But I'm happy to report that we were just one of the first big steps along the way to a new life for Wayne, a decorated Army veteran who is now a full-time employee of the Palo Alto VA. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Wayne Okeson to share his story with the support of the Project Hired VA supervisory staff.
As of today, the national unemployment rate is 9.1%. As of 2010, the unemployment rate for persons with disabilities was 15.4%. And among job seekers with disabilities, the majority, 70%, incurred their disability during their working years.
Even if it is not asked as a direct question, something interviewers like to know about candidates is how well they perform under pressure. If when things get hard or difficult or maybe just weird, will they still be able to contribute and to be productive? I do not know if this is the best way to answer the question, but during Operation Desert Storm, I served as an expert field medic. I wore a badge only 25% of all medics achieve. And that was for the 2nd Battalion in the 34th Armored Brigade of the 1st Infantry Division, the United States Army. And it was our job to establish initial breach through Iraqi defenses for the Army's 7th Corps. In other words, we were the front line. And just to make things a little more interesting, immediately behind us, chewing up desert, were 2 maneuver brigades, 2 more tank battalions, an infantry battalion, and a field artillery battalion, together affectionately known as the Fighting First. So you might say I learned a few things about grace under pressure. And given that I left Iraq with a Bronze Star, I guess the Army thought so too. But even as a highly trained, decorated medic who was an expert in taking care of people that cannot help themselves, when both of us are under fire, it turns out after the Army, the person I was least able to help was myself.
30 million people with disabilities are of working age. Between 75 and 80% of them are unemployed or underemployed. In 2010, 18.6% of persons with disabilities were employed, compared with 63.5% of those without a disability.
It is not easy to admit, but those of us who love to help people and support others, who instinctively know how to solve problems and just do what needs to get done in an emergency, often have the most difficult time asking for help. I did not ask for help when, as an older student at Washburn University in Kansas, I struggled for 3 semesters to understand why I was not good at college. I just thought I was lazy or maybe stupid. I did not ask for help when I was not able to figure out how to apply my Army medical experience to EMT training. I just thought they didn't need a guy with on-the-job experience. I did not ask for help when, after 2 years as an entry-level medical technician, my supervisor advised me that she did not think that I was suited for detail-oriented work as part of a team. I just thought I didn't work hard enough. I did not ask for help when I returned to California to start again. Not from the VA, not from friends, not even from family. I just thought that everyone was right and something was wrong with me. And so I made a learning disability worse by drinking too much. And I made a drinking problem worse by developing a drug habit. So I lost 10 years of my life to addiction and chronic unemployment, and to sleeping on couches and in cars, and to feeling sorry for myself because I thought I was broken beyond fixing. At first, I didn't want to ask for help, but after 10 years, I guess I thought I did not deserve it.
The unemployment rate for all veterans of all eras is 8.7%, and about 13% of all veterans of all eras report a service-connected disability. Since 2001, the latest wave of returning veterans from Iraq and Afghanistan reports an 11% unemployment rate and a 25% service-connected disability rate.
In 2008, I woke up and realized 10 years had gone by I was not proud of. So to move past one of the most difficult decades of my life, I reached out for the first time to make sure that another 10 years would not go by the same way. The first place that I could think of was the Veterans Administration and their Menlo Park facility, which houses their mental health programs. I took part in their homeless veterans rehabilitation program, the HVRP, and for the first time, I got the support I needed for accountability for my addiction issues. I received counseling that diagnosed my learning and cognitive disabilities and gave them names. I took part in assessments that reminded me that I was one of the most highly trained members of the most elite military force in the world, and that this experience had value then as it has value now. I begin to welcome the ongoing support and personal encouragements I needed to start my new life. After completing the HVRP, I applied for the Transitional Work Therapy, a program that provides veterans returning to the workforce with transitional work experience. I was instead offered supported employment therapy, a different program that first matches a job-seeking veteran with a vocational therapist for one-on-one support to help them develop social functioning skills that are equally important for success in the workplace. I have to say, I was not happy about supported employment therapy. I thought I had already gotten the help that I needed to get started again. I thought I had already made incredible progress. I thought I was ready to stand on my own again. What I realize now is that standing on my own does not have to mean standing alone. And because of my time in supported employment therapy, I met Lena Denny. Because of Lena, I not only thought about my life and my career, but began to actively plan it. Because of Lena, I learned how to conduct a job search like a professional, doing first, second, and third interviews and writing thank you notes. When I was not up to knocking on another employer's door, Lena even drove me to the interviews and waited for me in the parking lot until I was done. Because of Lena, I knew that there was someone who wanted to know on a weekly basis not just what I was doing, but how I was doing. And because of Lena, I found an organization called Project Hired. By the time I became a client of Project Hired, I thought I had encountered as many resources as were available to a job-seeking vet. But through the Wounded Warriors Workforce Program, the Project Hired Job Club series, and the involvement of Project Hired staff, I gained access to even more specialized services for veterans with disabilities, and also met a network of fellow job seekers who were working to build their own new futures. I cannot thank Project Hired enough for the additional support, training, and experience they offer to me to express how much it has expanded my horizons. But most importantly, because of Project Hired, I am not so bothered about missing out on compensated work therapy, because thanks again to Lena and a guy named Jerry who gave me a second chance after a tough first interview, I went from being a member of supported employment therapy program and a Project Hired client to becoming one of Project Hired's full-time call center employees.
More than 1 in 10 working age Americans ages 21 through 64 has a disability. And 1 out of the 7 people will become disabled for 5 years or more before they reach the age of 65.
If my story ended as an employee of Project Hired, that would be a happy ending. But as Jerry said, I was with Project Hired just 6 months when I had the opportunity to join the VA as a full-time medical clerk, which is where I am today. Not only is it great to be back supporting patients and medical professionals, I also think it's great that my moving on made it possible for Project Hired to make room for another job seeker who was ready to take the next step to overcome their challenges. It's a great feeling to be supported by Project Hired, but it is even a better feeling to help them support others on a journey I understand so well. So that is my story. It's got an interesting beginning, a tough middle, and it's not over. And because of the VA and Project Hired, it's back to being a good story. Not just because I've got a good job and a good future planned, but because I feel for the first time in control of what happens in my life. no matter what challenges I face. Not because my past or my disabilities have magically disappeared. I know that my challenges are for keeps, but I know now how to find support I need, when and how I should ask for it. And while living with disabilities is never easy, because I understand my challenges so clearly, I am more keenly aware of who I am and what I can do as a person. And I think that makes me a more honest, a more empowered, a more resolved employee for a company that hires me. So in closing, I want to leave you with this thought. A little more than 10 years ago, I'm not so sure I'm someone you would have wanted to know. But because of an organization like the VA and Project Hired, and people like Lena and Jerry, who believe that every person deserves a chance and that every path has dignity, I am here today as an example of the differences that reaching out in both directions can make. So when you consider the qualities of a job seeker with disabilities and are worried that perhaps the challenges of hiring them is more than you can handle, think about all the different people who have supported you in the good times and bad. Then think about the differences you can make by reaching out to just one person who is not asking for a handout, but just a helping hand. Or you can just think about me. Thank you.
Wayne. Okay, most of you know by now that I've been under the weather and scratchy throat. And that's why I'm all choked up now, really. That's why. Come here, Wayne. You were awesome. But we're not only honoring you for speaking up here. We also chose you to be our 2011 Employee Achievement Award winner because your commitment to your life change and job search is an inspiration, your dedication to developing job skills is tangible, and your commitment to not just retaining your job, but actually thriving in your role as a productive, valued, full-time employee at the Palo Alto VA embodies what we all want for every project-hired client. And I want to emphasize at the Palo Alto VA because it's not easy getting into any VA right now. And yet, they took the time to contact me and hire Wayne Okeson. So thank you, Wayne.